Alright, I don't know, man, that was crazy. My last stream seems to have frozen, but I think it should be available, in its entirety on the playback. I'm getting messages on the side. One moment. Alright, so let's check this stream out if we can. It's telling me I'm no longer on. What? Dude, this is crazy. The stream going? That was weird. Yeah, no, I started the new live stream, and then when I went to look at it, it said it was ended, but now I'm seeing it. Yeah, no, I started. And we're getting audio. Okay. Prism is just jacked up today, I guess. I blame Prism. Okay. If we go off the topic of Christianity, there's not a lot of non-Christian content here unless we want to talk about feminism. Last night, and
bringing up a notch above the person. So you're I check under the hood about the worker present now. Kick the fucking shoes off. I don't want you touching my balls, you faggot. I don't want you touching my balls. Dude, shit don't faze me, man. I don't want you touching my balls. I'm gonna file a lawsuit. Do it. I'm gonna file a lawsuit. When I get out of here, I'm filing a lawsuit. I promise you I'm filing a lawsuit. Jordan, please get me on recording telling I'm going to file a lawsuit. Check the Are y'all going to kill me? Because I got people that'll come looking for me. Y'all are all ganging up on me? Turn around real quick. Told you I ain't got dope on me, dude. I don't do dope. Right, but you talking too much. Shut up. I don't care, man. It's my free speech right. Oh. It's my free speech right. You're not going to tell me what I can and can't say, dude. Nah, I don't see shit. Hey, either kill me. Get in the car. Get in the car, bro. Either kill me or something, dude. Sit down.
Stop touching my balls or kill me. Kill me. Completely froze when I asked you that question. And yeah. Alright, let's we don't have time for all this. I don't have time for all this. It's crazy. I was like, let me do this Sam Harris episode. And I was like, oh no, I've got shit to do. I really wanted to finish the video we were doing. And I gotta go back and see whether we lost anything there, I guess, or whether it will have value on the replay. Oh wow, there's some really strange happenings here. So when I first went to the stream replay, so I think Prism's still working it out, it said it was 1 hour and 4 minutes. But then when I went to skip forward, it says 11:46. 11 minutes and 46 seconds. So I think what's happening is the video is processing. It's only processed up to 11. But the way Prism works, they go back and kind of get the kinks out. And so eventually, once the video is fully processed, we may get an hour of content out of that. But there's just no guarantee there. Okay, on exactly what happens, certain parts of the video may get cut out or something like that, because I've seen that happen before. So this is a 7-month-old conversation that I watched part of, I think. But that, just note, this is like around the Trump election, I guess, before the Destiny scandal dropped. So watch a little bit of this and maybe finish it later. So for those of you who don't know, Destiny is basically accused of maybe some sexual misconduct, and definitely, like, the accusation on the table right now is that he shared intimate videos of himself with another streamer without their consent to other parties. So that's kind of the scoop there. So that's all happened more recently. So this conversation takes place prior to the question way back when you first started the news stream. I'm not sure. My awesome life, which anyway, I'm fine. I'm not bothered. Essentially.
Welcome to the Making Sense podcast.
All right.
I am here with Stephen Bonnell. Stephen, thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me, Sam.
You were otherwise known as Destiny. Perhaps we should start there. Are you in the process of retiring Destiny, or are you just bouncing between both names?
My background when I first started streaming forever ago was in professional gaming for StarCraft 2. So I kind of went through the trouble of getting all the branding for Destiny, like the YouTube channel, the Instagram, and everything else. So it feels very difficult to give up. It's nice to just have that.
Oh, when I said I don't have time for this, I meant to complete this video. I'm not going to be able to get through the whole video, so no, I wasn't referring to you. Sorry about that. What's up, Brojo? Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. Happy Friday.
Name. So I go by, people call me Steven in real life, and you can find my stuff online as Destiny, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Well, so you've been very active in a part of online culture that I have had very little to do with. I mean, as you say, you got your start in gaming, but then you have become quite prominent online, debating people around mostly politics, but I think you've covered a wide range of topics. How did that start for you?
My mom is from Cuba. She came over when she was 6, so I grew up in a very conservative household, and my parents have always had very strong conservative opinions. And then going through grade school and high school, I guess I have like the debater archetype. I don't know if that's genetic or just I got it from my mom environmentally. So I've always been kind of like an argumentative, disagreeable person who's been politically interested. When I first got into streaming video games in end of 2010, early 2011, the focus was video games, but we also spoke a lot about, just like pop culture, philosophy, science.
It's crazy how many of these debaters, they start out like, doing gaming online, and they're in these live chats, and then everybody starts talking through those like live chats in the gamer communities, and then they start streaming based on that, and now you see a whole bunch of these streamers. And that's what they do. They still like host conversations, but they'll be like, conversations on politics, religion, philosophy. But they're all playing, like friggin' Call of Duty or something, whatever their poison is. But that's what they do, and they just stream the chat rooms, and like so many conversations respond out of dudes who have hours of free time to just hang out and play games, but be able to hold conversations in those spaces that are interesting to a lot of people,
Politics, whatever. And then in 2016, I picked it up as a much more significant part of what I did online.
And you and I debated at least a few of the same people. I've debated Jordan Peterson several times. You did that at least once. I think you've also spoken to Ben Shapiro. I'm not sure how we've overlapped with other people, but I think you've spoken to people who I would avoid. I'm wondering how you make these decisions. I saw that you spoke to Nick Fuentes, who's, I think, an avowed white supremacist, if not actual Nazi. Recently, you spoke to Candace Owens. Is there anyone you regret engaging?
I'll take that in two parts. So for the first one of my strengths is that I'm willing to talk to almost anybody. So it gives me very big reach into a lot of different types of communities because I'm willing to go into different shows and I can have a good time with a large variety of people and different types of characters, but I can still provide pushback against a large variety of different types of characters. So it's kind of it's a balancing act of how aggressive do I want to be versus how long do I want my legs to be? You know, how far do I want my reach, I guess, to extend into other communities? The only times I'm disappointed or I regret engaging with people is if I feel like the other person got more out of it than I feel like I did. So for instance, if I were to platform a very small, very radical person and then not give adequate pushback, and I feel like he bested me in a conversation that I could have been more prepared for, or if I'm, I don't want to promote bad ideas and like bring them to everybody's attention and then, have a bad showing against it. But if there's like, really popular talking points and a lot of people believe a thing, I think it's worth discussing and I'll have those people on to fight with them. Yeah. And then the second part was if I regret, over the past year, I've regretted everything. God.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. It's a constant balancing act between, like I said, like how gentle do I want to be versus how aggressive do I want to be. I would say around the last year, I've been making I go back and forth between these like very empathetic approaches to debate versus like these very aggressive approaches. And so the past year, I've been more empathetic and I've gotten conversations with Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens. And
Well, you're more empathetic now because, you've got taken down a peg, with the whole polyamory online. See, there's a whole backstory here where, Destiny starts streaming, gets very popular for, being supposedly like very pro-feminist and all of this stuff, empowering women, polyamory and all this stuff. And he's in this polyamorous relationship. And then he gets essentially cheated on and then left, right? And it's all done very publicly. And it's so... he hits this high where he's with like this Instagram model, and then the Instagram model, basically destroys him, and he's a fucking wreck, and then he comes back and he's more empathetic, right? But it's only out of that whole drama.
I worry sometimes that I play this role in like, oh, well, look, I debated Destiny and we got along and it was fine. And it's like, well, we kind of debated, but I was being very, very, very gentle because I'm trying not to make you so mad that you'll never talk to me again or that you won't have the conversation. So then when I look back at the role I played in that, and then I see now when I take more aggressive positions on things that I feel strongly about, they're like, well, I can't talk to Destiny. That guy's crazy. Candace Owens wouldn't let me in her space a week ago because she said I was a sexual deviant while she was speaking with Andrew Tate and Dan Blitzerian. I'm like, what? So now I'm like,
you're in good company, or you're worse than that good company.
Yeah.
I watched part of your conversation with Candace, and now perhaps she has transformed into her current monstrous shape since you debated her. I haven't really followed her timeline very closely. This is one of the consequences of having gotten off social media. There are things I don't follow, which they seem very big online, I'm sure. But Candace Owens becoming a proper anti-Semite was something I think I had on my bingo card some years ago. And
you only hear about Candace Owens when people are covering her insanity. Like, really, like she's not like out there unless you like actually follow her, which I don't. She's a fucking disgusting human being. It's like, not just that. Like I follow some disgusting human beings, but it's like, it's like that chick who did the Jewish space laser conspiracy. They're not, like worth the attention. Like you just strip that person. Like unfortunately, like these people who are in positions to like influence other people and they're in power over other people, right, makes it difficult. But giving them more attention doesn't assuage that at all. And Zyrax welcome back, Zyrax. I can't stand her at all. Yeah, Candace Owens is a crazy bitch. I when I use that terminology, see, I don't mean it to disparage. See, I'm saying that is the definition. When you say shit like that, like that's who you're talking about. And then there's that's like, I wouldn't say that about just anybody that I disagree with. You have to be at a certain level of influence and prestige, and presumably, you could be making better choices about how to use that influence, right? But you're doing it. You're doing it for shock value. You're doing it for clickbait. And that's why I don't give it to him. I just won't.
So I was unsurprised, but I'm not quite sure when she fully pulled the mask off, if it was ever properly on. You don't think the semi-friendly, even somewhat adversarial conversation with her just has the net effect of kind of laundering her reputation with your audience and doing more harm than good?
With my audience, absolutely not. With the other audiences, that's what is so hard to determine. Like I said, I don't like the idea that Candace can say like, oh, well, you know, I had a debate with Destiny or I had a conversation with Steven. And it's like, not really. That was a very gentle, if you watch the conversation, I think at around 10 minutes, I realized that even then I'm pushing back too much and she's about to rage out and leave. And I'm like, okay, we got to be more gentle. So that irritates me. My audience is never becoming just because I put out so much content. I stream so much.
And I think that is like a problem with people like Destiny, because even though Destiny's pushing back right now, it's platforming thing. And I do agree, like, it's never necessarily an evil to talk to somebody who has even like the worst worldview, right? Like talking to a Nazi, like not platforming them to a certain extent, like you're informing people. If you're not promoting those ideas actively, right? You could just be interviewing somebody to give the public an idea of what kind of countercultures or subcultures exist, right? As a means of conveying information. That's one thing. It's not necessarily promoting the idea. But on the other hand, there are people, and as I said before, if they are doing sensationalism, right? They personally, professionally, they're doing it to get attention, right? That's what I think the difference is. And you can spot that out. These people who get attached to hot button issues, right? They will latch on to every next thing. They're not consistent, right? They keep latching on to whatever comes out in the media, becomes sensational, and then they go after that thing. It's like you're a dog chasing a bone type of thing, and they consistently keep doing that, and that gets them notoriety. And I think that's the problem with like what we call, like journalism and current events and stuff like that. Journalism perpetuates stories, right? It is, so you're taking any, random story happening in modern times, and you're giving it a voice. You're giving it a farther reach than it would otherwise have. And so then you make that story seem more important to other people. They're not his. You mean Destiny? Is Destiny non-binary still? Might be. I don't know. I probably should know, but I don't. But yeah, so people become aware of stories as thinking, and it's like the trans issue. Like a lot of people who have opinions on transgender issues have never met a transgender person, right? They heard about it on the news. They heard about it on a podcast, right? And because of journalism, these stories get farther reach, right? Oh, not Destiny. I'm speaking in general. Who you may deem opposition. Oh. Okay, got you. No, I'm against the patriarchy for sure, yeah.
But it's so many videos and I have so many conversations. They're not going to hear somebody like that and instantly be captivated and become whatever neo-Nazi Blexit combo of weird stuff she is now. But for audiences in the middle, I don't know. It's hard to say. It's good to provide some pushback. Like it legitimizes me in that I can talk to a lot of different people. It legitimizes me in the eyes of her audience. Like, oh, well, this, Steven's a reasonable guy that you can have conversations with. But then it also plays kind of a dirty role that everybody's been complicit in over the past several years of like making some of these ideas seem a lot more reasonable and sane than they actually are. And I've spent the past few months or the past month or so after the assassination attempt, saying, okay, hold on, no, let's back up. A lot of this stuff is insane, and I think we need to go back to calling this insane.
Is there anyone whose name I would recognize who you've decided not to talk to because you just viewed them as too dishonest or unethical?
I'll still talk to anybody, but the conversations are just going to be a lot more aggressive. I'm not going to have a conversation with Jordan Peterson while he just kind of like meanders through the point that 20% excess deaths in Europe are all caused by the vaccine. That's not going to happen next time. Like, okay, well, we're going to sit here, we're going to fixate on this point now. Or when I ask Ben Shapiro, like, don't you guys think you grade Trump on a curve? And he's like, yeah, we do. I'm like, okay, well, that can't stand,
Right.
right? Yeah, I just won't let those things flow by anymore. Yeah.
So what have you regretted in the last year? What has been the controversy or the chaos?
For some reason, I never understood that, like, the media is, I always hear the media is left-wing dominated. The media is dominated by the left. And I hear that, and I look online, and I see kind of the crazy left, and then I look at, like, CNN and MSNBC, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe they are. But somehow, even in left-wing spaces, the conservatives have such a good reign on controlling the discourse. And I'm so upset that I allowed myself to be kind of brainwashed by the Trump derangement syndrome insult, where I'm like, okay, I got to be really fair. I got to be really careful when I cover Trump because I don't want to sound deranged. I don't want to sound unhinged. And, and I'm sitting here trying to think like, okay, well, when Trump said this absolutely crazy thing,
And yeah, anytime they say Trump derangement, etc., I just gaslighting all the way down. Like, you can't be a reasonable person and defend Trump, and it's just so. Especially now, like this is prior to the election or whatever, right? Like we know now, like if you thought it couldn't get crazier, it definitely can, and it has, right? And we're just barely getting into this administration, but it's fucking wacky. It is ridiculous. And when you think of the doors is opening up, the possibilities for the future, how much crazier can it get? Well, don't ask yourself that question because you might drive yourself insane, right? I don't have to defend myself. I mean, not intellectually against these lunatics, right? I may defend myself in other ways, right? But I don't think I need to muster intellectual defense to Trumpism, right? It's like if you look at it and you think it is sane, then you are by definition you are insane.
when January 6th happens, like it was just this and that and that. And then meanwhile, the conservatives are like, so here's the 57th picture of Hunter Biden's dick that we're showing in Congress. And we know, by the way, that him and Joe Biden, unilaterally dictated world policy to get rid of this prosecutor in Burisma. And it's like, oh my God, the uneven playing field, the assassination attempt, I think completely broke me. When I saw how indignant conservatives are, like, you guys are calling us Nazis and look what happens. And then I'm like replaying in my mind all the Paul Pelosi comments. And I'm like, no, this is insane. I'm sorry. You guys completely bought the farm on this. This is crazy.
What do you attribute this skewing to? I mean, let's take the case of an intelligent person who is not allergic to Trump in the way that we are. I mean, I happen to know some of these people. I even have a few good friends who, I would consider, this is something I say to their face. I consider them low information voters. I mean, they're simply not disposed to pay attention to all of the thousands of norm violations and other indiscretions that Trump is trailing, right? So they have a little bit in their head. They have a lot of what I would consider misinformation from the right that more or less exonerates Trump on.
I just wanted to point out, like, it keeps occurring to me, like, visually on the screen. Like, I think this is supposed to be like a sunset on a, like a waterway or something. There's like the water in between, and there's the red and the blue. And I think it's probably supposed to signify like political oppositions or something. But it looks like a French flag. I don't know. Is that right? France? It looks like a French flag, I think.
On all counts,
Keeps
the phrase, the
sticking out
Russia
to me.
collusion hoax, does an inordinate amount of work in their brains. And they've essentially just averted their eyes from the whole problem. And they come away with a feeling that more or less all of the kind of reaction that you and I have had to Trump is totally overblown. I mean, it is Trump derangement syndrome. It is just, we don't like the guy's personality and we couldn't get over that. But when you look at policies, he's super normal and not even especially conservative. And, much of his criticism of the...
Oh boy, well that's, again, pre-election, he's, I know Sam's probably had some choice words to say about him since he came into office this time. But yeah, he was pretty ineffectual politically the last time. He did a few things like Roe v. Wade and all that, but for the most part, he just created a lot of infighting and division, and he's still doing that. But now he's making more policy changes that are a lot more impactful.
powers that be and the way things were done in Washington for as long as anyone can remember. Many of the criticisms are valid. There is a kind of deep state sclerosis that needs to be reamed out. They don't spend much time thinking about the actual ideologues in his orbit, people like Steve Bannon and what he might say on his dumb podcast. And they just see a very clear trade-off between Trump, who is calling bullshit on obvious bullshit, like wokeism, and the moral panic on the left that has racialized everything and made it seem like trans bathrooms is the greatest human rights concern of our time, etc. And
oh god, stupidest fucking concern ever. Right? Like, why weren't all bathrooms gender neutral to begin with? It's because they know the janitorial staff, right? They they can relax on the men's bathroom. That's why. Um, right? Because we've all walked into the men's bathroom, if you're a man, hopefully, or a trans man or whatever, right? And there's like shit smeared on the wall, and it's like all over the toilet seat, and they're like, no, it's fine, just figure it out, right? You walk into the women's bathroom, it doesn't look like that. If you go into a gender neutral bathroom, they're all fucking clean, right? Because they don't know. Because men don't complain as much, right? The woman's gonna walk out, she'll be like, hey, there's shit on the wall in the toilet seat, right? I don't know if that's actually the reason, but I'm just saying it's a truism. It's a fact. Zyrex, I don't know how people cannot see that Trump don't even want to be president. I'm so pissed off at our governor. Yeah. So I recently became aware of this and was just reminded of it by what Sam was saying there. Gavin Newsom apparently is doing a podcast.
Snap your W-2 and file your taxes 100% free.
Right-wingers?
Plus, get your biggest refund.
Which is
File
totally
free
crazy,
now.
right? Like, this is our governor in California, using his free time to interview Steve Bannon, apparently, for some reason. Why? I don't know.
So much for taking the time to be here, and I want to take this opportunity to sort of go back a little bit and talk about your history, a little bit about your motivations and where you see this country and, for that matter, the world going. But it's impossible not to note the world that we're living in relationship to everything happening with the markets, everything.
I remember what I was saying earlier. Like, it's not giving platform to dudes like Steve Bannon. He has his own platform, clearly. But it's to make people like us aware that this dude has, like a significant following of people, and he's out there. And this is what he believes, right?
With tariffs, everything happening with CR and a potential government.
Don't be giving tariffs stink eye. I don't want to start off with you giving it stink eye already.
We'll stress.
I'm a tariff guy.
I appreciate that, and we'll see. We'll stress test that.
The purpose I want to do this is I want to convert you to be a tariff guy also. This is part of the process to unwind you from being a globalist, to make you a.
Oh yeah, the tariffs they're breaking down. These counter tariffs are gonna just apparently fuck people up. It's like, I guess we're used to high prices in California. We kind of already have them. I mean, we have this huge economy and all these people, right? Like, people in other parts of the country, right? They're like, my egg price dropped by 50% or some shit. Apparently, that's what we heard. But it's like, it didn't drop that significantly. And we're one of the large suppliers of dairy products to our neighbors, right? And we pay actually the highest prices for those products right here where we produce them.
Populist nationalists. It's a long journey. It's a long journey, but I think you'll get there.
This is part of the deprogramming, is it? I appreciate it. And by the way, for the record, I'm going down your rabbit hole right here. I'm not an absolutist as it relates to being against tariffs by any stretch of the imagination. And I thought it interesting what I think Biden tripled tariffs on aluminum and steel, which is getting a lot of attention in this country today as it relates to Canada. And Democrats weren't screaming and yelling about that. So fair.
Fetterman, look, you've got,
Fair is fair. What the fuck, man? Why are you equivocating that? That's completely repulsive. He just, oh my goodness, that was bad. Right off the bat, that was so bad.
And by the way, thanks, Governor, for doing this. I really appreciate it. Wanted to have this conversation
yeah, I'm definitely probably not voting for this guy.
A long time.
Yeah.
Two of
the
three best economic populists in the Democratic Party, who I think are kind of on an island. One of the best is Ro Khanna. Ro's economic patriotism, which we always kid him as just ripping off Navarre and my economic nationalism, is he's an economic populist. So is Fetterman. Fetterman just announced, we're here today during the CR. Fetterman just announced he would support the CR if it came in as Fetterman's a populist, and then Sherrod Brown. Sherrod Brown, I think, has been an economic populist for a long time. So there are very strong voices in the Democratic Party. I think now, unfortunately, as a populist, I think they're kind of on an island because it really hasn't been the center of the conversation with the Democratic Party. But I think those three are pretty good as far as populism
And
goes.
Steve, I mean, in terms of populism, then it's a good segue. How do you define that then? Is it a principle? I mean, obviously tariff may be a component part, but how do you define populism, particularly in relationship to their reflective lens in terms of
Well,
them being
populism,
democratically?
obviously, we believe in subsidiarity. We believe in bringing power back to the grassroots level, right? We're very anti-elitist, and one of the reasons is we think the elites in this country, the highly educated elites, the political class, the Wall Street, Silicon Valley, Hollywood, all of it, have really forgotten the underlying kind of principles of the country. And
So I like that he's putting these different categories of people together, right? They're all up together. Well, it's the intellectuals, right? It's highly educated people, but it's also rich people in Hollywood, and it's also so all of these people are in the same club, right? And you're not in it, Steve Bannon, right? Like I'm not in that club, right? Most people aren't in that club. Elitism, right? Is a belief that if you are successful in any given field, then you must be a part of the ruling class, which is not true. It's not true. Donald Trump was not successful in business. He happens to have money, but he's not really a successful businessman, and yet because he continues to generate capital, he is perceived as successful, right? And now he's president of the United States. But he's not intellectual. But he is the ruling class, right? He's not any of those things, but he is the ruling class by virtue of being able to generate capital. What does that tell you?
left, working class people, regardless of their race, gender, ethnicity, sexual preference, you pick it, they've kind of forgotten. And that's why such a big push for kind of these populist economic policies that look to put the lens is not just America first, but American citizens first. And it goes with tax policy, it goes with tariffs, it goes with bringing manufacturing jobs back. It's nationalistic in the fact that
I just found out that one of my favorite games, Magic the Gathering,
Of course
is
he's
available on
fucking
mobile,
monetized.
and
Why wouldn't he be?
manufacturing jobs back.
You would think the governor of California would forego the monetization, but no, he needs them YouTube funds.
It's nationalistic in the fact that not isolationist, but understanding that we got to make it right for American citizens, and particularly for the greatest resource we've had or ever had, which is the American working man and woman. So it's to push every decision as down low as possible and to get everything back to a grassroots level. And one of the keys to populism and kind of about the sovereign will is that the use of human agency, that just don't sit there and say, somebody else has got, congressman's got to do something, or senator's got to do something, or governor's got to do something. You have to use your agency only. And I see this in the Democratic Party now, the people saying, do something. Do something. I think that's a lesson that we learned after President Trump. And look, we disagree on this, but President Trump won the 2020 election, and we were kind of shattered as a movement when he left Washington, D.C., and we had to go back to basics to say, it can't be somebody else do something. We had to do something. And that's where we went back to really a pure populist movement to go at the grassroots, the precinct strategy, and kind of rebuild ourselves from there.
Well, and I appreciate the notion of agency, that we're not bystanders in the world. It's decisions, not conditions, that determine our fate and future. And that fundamental notion of agency, I think, is important more broadly. And I think that goes to some of the issues around, victimization. And I see a lot of that, respectively, on the right, increasingly, even with Trump often approaching things from that sort of mindset.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
The right's whole platform is victimization. They're always like, and it's not even, they personally, right, are like, oh, whatever, I can't pray in school, which is bullshit, right? Or my kid can't pray in school because obviously, the people who are actually voting and shit can't, aren't in school, right? So they're speaking for their family or something, right? And then so there's that victim culture, which doesn't exist. And then there's the extension of victim culture, which is like, oh, I'm concerned for this potential unborn fetus in the ghetto in some state I don't even live in that I want to, try to legislate on, right? I'm concerned for this transgender child who I've never met, will never meet, right? But because I think it will negatively impact their mental health. That's the conservative position, right? They're like, this person is so far removed from me, and yet I will take a moral stance on their experience, which I will never share, right? And I believe so strongly about that. I believe so strongly that I am right. Right? And then if you don't give me a voice for my ridiculous, uneducated ideas, then I'll claim you are violating my right to speak.
For
Yes,
Trump,
I think
when
there's
he
sort of the grievance narrative that comes from Trump. This notion there is sort of a victim.
Well,
grievance
they did try to put him in prison for 300 years, right? They did try to bankrupt him.
Well, that's
if a guy had ever had a set of grievances, they did steal, according to us, and we're firm believers, the 2020 election, which I think worked out better. That providentially that he was able to come back with that gap, because I think you're seeing a much more not just new and improved, but somebody that's much more in command of these decisions and really stepping up in a way that we could have never done before. But no, I don't think it's grievances. I think it's reality. I mean, they tried to. No one in American history has the system ever come after, and I think it's one of the problems with the Democrats. You got in a position of having to defend. Remember, I come from a working class Democratic family.
An old
right?
Kennedy Democratic family.
Kennedy Democrat. I was telling some people last night. I said we didn't know any Republicans. There were just we were.
That's funny. Steve Bannon comes from a working class Democrat family, and Destiny, Stephen, whatever his face is, his name is slightly similar, but he is the polar opposite politically, and comes from a intellectual conservative family. So put that contrast together.
Irish Catholic working class phone company.
Stephen Brunel, yeah, that's his name.
Firemen, a Navy enlisted people. You didn't know any Republicans. They just weren't in your, we were in the South also, which is all, machine Democratic politics.
Hey, Christian Carpenter, good to see you. Good afternoon, much love. It's still morning here, but we'll give you the afternoon.
So you didn't know anybody.
Wherever
You
you
didn't
are.
know anybody then. And so to see what President Trump had to go through, and to see how we've actively changed the Republican Party to actually the working class party in this country. There was a poll done last spring that showed that we as the Republican Party are the working class party and viewed as such, and that President Trump's the leader of that working class party, and the Democrats have become both not just the Wall Street elitists, but also the kind of the credential class with the poor underneath it, of which we're now trying to obviously recruit not just the working poor, but actually the poor itself to join our broadening coalition.
My awesome wife says Bannon was just in jail 2 years ago. Yeah. Yeah, he's Congress put him in jail. No, he's out here. He's back on YouTube and other platforms, I guess. Doing his
I
thing.
appreciate it. I want
Same old
to
shit.
talk more about that, because I think it's interesting, just as one of the points of contrast with you and, frankly,
I
Trump
don't think,
himself
as
right now.
far as I know, Trump doesn't associate with him anymore, but he still
I
supports
was
him.
on some of the issues of tax policy in relationship to this notion of who are you for, and you've been pretty critical about the proposed tax, the extension of the existing tax cuts that disproportionately favor the wealthiest. And you are making the point that it should disproportionately focus on the middle class and working.
Governor, I'm not so sure. Let me get there. So in 17, I was a big advocate of that in the first Trump tax plan of actually raising the rates on the upper bracket.
Right.
And doing actually more to the lower bracket and the corporations. And it was not just what I thought was right, but also politically expedient. At that time in the spring of 2017, it was really Bernie Sanders and Pocahontas that was going to be the
Senator
number one.
Warren.
Pocahontas, fucking asshole. Had to pull that one out, right? Fucking, but gotta take a moment to feel the burn. Bernie is still out there doing important work. That guy is such an underrated politician. He is the fucking best. And yeah, I mean, if you're not, go just look at him on the floor. He gets swept under the rug, but there's video, and he's out there. He's challenging these assholes, and it's just nobody responds to him. They have no defense. He just fucking obliterates.
Elizabeth Warren is going to be Pocahontas, we call it, going to be the challengers coming from the populist left.
Right.
And I thought it was very important to nip that in the bud at the time and raise the brackets. Now, I think history shows that they can show you the math that doing all of that actually worked in unison and got us that great 2019. Today, and President Trump, I think, invested a pretty upfront that this is the last chance we're going to get at a supply side cut of that $4 trillion. I think the $2.6 trillion of joint, 400,000 and below of couples.
Right.
And I think you add another couple of $100 billion for maybe the pass-throughs to the LLC so the entrepreneurs get caught up. But that additional $1 trillion, unless it can be shown mathematically, and I think people are working on this, that they consume, right now I think the top 3% consume almost 50% of what's going in the country. Unless that you're concerned that would kick you into a major recession if that went away. I'm pretty adamant about that. You shouldn't, the upper bracket shouldn't get it, and even some of the corporations shouldn't get it if they're just going to do stock buybacks. But additional tax cuts should go as President Trump promised. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and particularly no tax on Social Security.
Yeah, but I mean, his current proposal doesn't add up then in that respect. Blows the deficit and continues those corporate tax cuts and continues the tax cuts to the wealthiest. So it runs. And I'm not.
I think what we're not to be argumentative.
No, appreciate it.
We want to have an open dialogue. I think when you look at Besson, and Charlie Gasparino had a pretty good piece in the New York Post today about this. If you add in, if you look at the growth rates, and it's predicated on growth, you look at a growth rate 2.5% to 3%, right? If you look at what we're trying to do in cutting federal spending, in addition, DOGE, which is the waste, fraud, and abuse, and you look at additional revenues externally from tariffs, you can get to, and what Besson's trying to do is take the deficit from 6.5% of GDP down to 3.5% of GDP. So this not this out of control explosion of $2 trillion in deficits, which we as Republicans are about to sign off on today. Just so your audience understands, this CR today, the House will approve the Biden-Kamala Harris spending for this year.
Locking it in.
They're locking it in, and that's a
and
tough
how
one
you
for
can't
us.
be. I mean, how are you out there supporting that then?
Well, because right now, I think with everything it does, and by the way, it's that, plus it's a $2 trillion deficit. Okay. I think the reason we're doing it is that the House, and they are committed to do that, working with Democrats in the spring and summer this year for fiscal year 26. And I think to keep the government open, to keep President Trump hitting on all cylinders, to keep DOGE at work in federal court overnight. The federal courts are coming after DOGE. This is on at least information. We expect many more lawsuits about that. But I think in the
Yeah, Doge is going to end it. I mean, this thing is fucking disastrous, right? And now Trump is removing Musk. He's trying to let him like gracefully bow out, but it doesn't look like that's what's going to happen. Like the whole situation is fucking nuts, right? But they're like, oh yeah, by the way, you actually can't do all this shit. Like, you can do it, but there are going to be repercussions, right? And they're like, oh wait, there are actually consequences to all this crazy shit we're pulling. Yeah, far-reaching beyond your fucking comprehension.
To do it, we're prepared, and you know we hate any CR. This one we've hated for a long time. We're prepared to go along. The president says he needs it. What I love about Johnson for the first time, they just announced they're going to vote on it this afternoon. He thinks he's got the votes in the House to do it. Then they're going on recess. They're sending it over to the Democratic Senate with a play me or trade me.
Which
right?
then they need 7 votes on the Senate side in order to get this done. Otherwise, we got a government shutdown. Yet another one. What is your over/under on the prospects of that?
You can join my free WhatsApp group and see everything for yourself. Every trade, the exact times I
got a government shutdown. Yet another one. What is your over/under on the prospects of that?
I don't know, man. It is weird that the California governor is spending his time as such. Okay, let's see if we can finish the movie here. Only a couple minutes left of it.
And probably go to church this Sunday.
I don't know if the video is still buffering. I went to check it out a minute ago, the last one, and we're still not getting the full feed. So I'll see what happens with that, if I can resurrect it from Prism or however that works. But yeah, I spent over an hour covering this earlier, so might as well finish it.
Sam, if you put your faith in God, he'll never let you down. He's the creator of the universe. No rocket you've ever made itself. That's ludicrous. The rocket is proof of a manufacturer, and creation is proof of a creator. It's just common sense. A child can understand that. So, would you at least think about what we talked about?
Yeah, for sure.
What are you, an agnostic?
Not well, you know. I mean, somebody would define me that way, but I don't think it's important enough to know the distinction. I'm just a person who thinks someday you could find out, and I would know that whoever was there judging me, and I'm sure there's no one like that, but if there was someone judging me, then I'd be fine.
I don't want the eternal life, to be honest.
Are you pretty miserable?
No.
So he's, I guess, comfort here is agreeing with Carlin. Like, he's like, oh yeah, George Carlin's view on God is okay. He's like, if there's somebody judging me, I don't think they'd be judging me like that, but if they were, I'd still be all right, you know? Like, I'm not that, you know, like, so some people can reflect all their lives and say, oh, I'm a pretty decent person overall, right? Like, you know, with some objectivity, you know, I don't know, and that's just the thing. It's not like somebody who says, oh, all my shit's really bad, you know, or, you know, because you could blame, right, like a bad shit that happened to you in the past, right? Like, and that is, it's a reason. It's not an excuse, right? And then you behave in such a way because it's what you were taught, right? And that's all behaviorism. That's all like simple psychology stuff. But it's for people that need to feel forgiven in a situation where like forgiveness is not possible. I think they need God to atone for whatever sin they feel they have committed, I guess. But a lot of people don't feel that way.
Oh, I love this life, but eternity sounds miserable. I do appreciate that you want me to think about it, and I have thought about it. And, you know, if something changes my mind, I'm always open to reason changing my mind, but faith, not so much, no.
Yeah, well, thank you for talking to me. I think this went pretty well, and I'll make sure to add a special thanks for you at the end of this.
Okay, great to talk to you.
All right, well, it was nice meeting you, Ray.
Thank you.
Have a nice day. Bye. Well, I think that went pretty well. I mean, he was very nice. I do appreciate him sitting down and talking with me.
I don't see God anywhere. I see all the creation.
So was she streaming it, I guess maybe separately is why that whole 3-camera trick was going on? I don't know.
It's about, that's a building had to be a designer, therefore the universe had to be designed. Another non sequitur. This is logical fallacy after logical fallacy, Ray. I'm sorry. Your arguments are very weak.
Now, Bruce, you were almost killed recently in a car accident.
That's right.
I thank God that you weren't killed.
And I thank God for the paramedics that came to get me.
So do I.
Actually, I don't thank God at all. I just thank the paramedics. Excuse me.
There's a There's only like a minute left of this video, so I'm not sure exactly where we're going here. Like how this is supposed to open my mind. He was like, no, actually, I don't thank God at all. But if I did thank God, I would thank God for the paramedics. Yeah, and this is kind of like my experience when it's like, you know, having some hard times, and I reached out. I was like, you know, at no point did God ever intervene or anything, but a lot of people did, you know, things to make me feel seen, right? It was a big, you know, a grandiose, like a spectacle, right? For my benefit, right? And a lot of people came out to do that. And God never had anything to do with it. Whether or not those people believed in God seems inconsequential, you know, really, because I didn't interact with the God, right? It was the people that I saw. And that's usually what it is. It's you know, another new agey idea, just that God works through people, which is the only way that he, you know, would definitionally work. You know, even with the Jesus story, it's God working through a person, I guess, you know. But yeah, that's my
going on that I need the Rosetta Stone. I need someone to sit me down and go, Penn.
So Penn,
he's played that like 4 or 5 times now. That clip of Penn Jillette in this video. That's like his main focus. He's like, Penn, I tried to sit you down, and then I did sit you down, and then you didn't want the conversation to be released. Because obviously he wasn't convinced or anything, you know. Like he didn't give me the Rosetta Stone or, you know, whatever.
Now have your Rosetta Stone. Now you know why it is that intelligent people believe such foolish stories. But now you need to do the ultimate foolish thing in the eyes of this proud world. You need to repent and become as a little child and trust in Jesus. How humbling is that? But that's the only...
So that's his whole full movie here, 33 minutes. Kind of a short movie, you know, documentary or whatever on himself, is calling out Penn Jillette. He's like, Penn Jillette, I think you need to become a child and repent.
to find everlasting life. When you get right with God, it will no doubt be an answer to your Christian mother's prayers. And mine.
For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise and bring to nothing the understanding of the prudent. 1 Corinthians 1:19.
I'm not, just because some atheists are telling me to rid God out of everything in the universe, that I'm not doing that.
Alright. So that was ridiculous. That was stupid. That was fucking stupid. I'm not gonna lie, I think that was fucking stupid. Alright, got about 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Actually, the video is 11 minutes 54 seconds. Or 11 hours 54 minutes 59 seconds. Excuse me.
Praise the Lord. It's a beautiful day. God bless all of you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Dry fasting and prayers. We prayed in tongues before several times. And I had to announce.
What we got here? I was watching a little bit of this when it was live. Yeah.
I guess.
She's got a live band. It's cute. It's amazing because to become a Christian musician, like, so this is great. All you have to do, you start a church, you know, you get people to fund your church. You make crazy YouTube videos, right? You know, these people that come in, they buy you a church, they buy you a house, they live with you, and they wait on you because you're an apostle, right? And you have a decent singing voice, you know, decent singing voice. You hire a couple of dudes to play in your band, and you have the parishioners, you know, buy the instruments, because all of this is funded by the belief in Jesus, right? Wow, there's like a random white couple over there dancing. That's crazy. I've never seen white people in this church. She's twerking again. Twerking for Jesus. See, she can be a very strict master, but she can also be a very still going. I just want to get the kids
Came on. Alexis woke up from a dream and she sent me a dream. So I told her to do. Now, this nothing, right?
Went too far.
You are taking your him before great men, but the one that I really like, the TPT translation, it says, would you like to meet a very important person, right? Take a generous gift. It will do wonders to gain entrance into his presence. So when the gift is already in you, blended in you, you are taking yourself there. Like Joseph took himself, they took him to the palace, and that gift made way for him. That's how God elevated him. So God says he's going to give us a lot of gifts. I kept hearing it. They said we're going to get a lot of gifts during this prayer. So I was just putting out all.
Yeah. That's her whole thing. Like, through this, she's like, we're going to get a bunch of gifts. God says you're going to give me money. Because you keep giving me money. Every time I do the stream, you give me money. Right? People are donating. It's fucking crazy. And, well, probably cover more of that the next time I have time to do one of these. Yeah, I was like, this is a long stream, but I did hear part of this, and I was like, oh yeah, some part of that prosperity gospel we love so much. Okay, so, but that's fine. This is quitting time for me. But to everybody viewing, past, present, and future, I will say the same thing I say every time I end a stream, because I always say the same thing at the end of every stream, which is be kind, be well, and stay trusty. I'll see you on the next episode. Have a happy Friday and a fantastic weekend. Bye-bye.